Kansas City, here I come. Going to Kansas City. Kansas City, here I come. They got some crazy little women. One day I'm gonna get me one. I'll be standing on the corner 12th Street Vine. I'll be standing on the corner 12th Street Vine. With my Kansas City woman, boy, the whole bottle is so drinking wine. I may take a plane, I may take a train. If I have to walk, I'm going there just the same. I'm going to Kansas City, Kansas City, here I come. They got some crazy little women. One day I'm gonna get me one. I don't know when and where I'm going to. Kansas City, Kansas City, here I come. Going to Kansas City, Kansas City, here I come. They got some crazy little women. One day I'm gonna get me one. I'll be standing on the corner 12th Street Vine. Corner 12th Street Vine. With my Kansas City woman, boy, the whole bottle is so drinking wine. I may take a plane, I may take a train. If I have to walk, I'm going there just the same. I'm going to Kansas City, Kansas City, here I come. Got some crazy little women. One day I'm gonna get me one.
Good afternoon to our best cities in Missouri, or let's say 2.5, Ferguson and St. Louis and Kansas City, Missouri. This is Guess Who's Coming to Kansas City. My name is MC Richardson, the host and executive producer and the moderator. And we have, first of all, how many people are listening have you heard or getting this shot? I understand Arrowhead's going to be open, and the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum is going to be open for people to get their shots. I've already had mine too, and they said the state of Oklahoma, based on the Trump supporters, are ignoring the shots. That's what he said today. But we have some of the people of color that said, I think they're catching on. The shot is a necessity in the mask. But anyway, we have approximately 541 persons who have died, and that's one too many. Also, in the Remembrance and Dialogue, Marietta Berry, 69 years old, they had her funeral yesterday. She is the sister of Phyllis Harris, and they are part of the Satchel Paige family. Then Albert Sykes, a known icon here in Kansas City, passed away. And the other fellow, I can't get his right name, say it right, but it was Koto. He was in Live and Let Die, and he died in the Philippines at the age of 41. Now, today's show, as soon as we get right on there, we're going to have at least 3 or 4 people, and these people are they are talking about state of the art. They'll be able to provide you with that. And Mr. Alvin Brooks, he's also has published a book, and it's called Binding Us Together. And it's a book that's on sale. And we have Mr. Benjamin, he's with the Office of citizen complaints, and he has been there since Willie Walton. So, do we have any one of them, or we have Rod on the line with us?
We got Rod. We got Rod, but Allen can't join until later on in a half hour from now.
Mr. Brooks?
You can't join.
Well, the show must go on, but go on. Okay, Rod, we'll start with you. And you're the host. I'm just assisting you.
Wait a minute. Okay, let's go back right now. I need to Merle's full number is I got a 225. What is it? 88? What?
3-1, I think. 3-1. I have to go back and look for it. Do I need to?
Yes, you do. How you doing, Ron?
Doing great. Great to be with you. Thank you.
Yes, spreading all out. Life is beautiful.
Yes, it is. It's a beautiful day in Kansas City today, isn't it?
Same way in St. Louis, out of cloud in the sky.
Hey, we need that.
Well, right now, the first day of spring, what can we say?
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Boy.
It is 816-225-8892. How are you doing, Mr. Rod?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Okay, I was thinking that if Mr. Folks could get Sanchez's email, he just emailed some information, and I'll get back with her Monday, and we'll just go from there and get everything together, the other situation we got going.
That'd be fantastic.
Okay.
Fantastic. Yeah. Can I offer a reflection on Brother Al tonight?
Yes. He passed away 2 days ago.
What an incredible leader. I think about the bill for Hill and what that really means, not just for people in Missouri, but for Americans, understanding in some way justice will be done. He struggled for years to get that passed, and of course did it in Republican-controlled federal Congress. So,
right. President Bush had him up in Washington.
That's right. People understand and appreciate the value of justice.
Right.
Too bad we don't in the same way here in Missouri. I think about 4-story standards and the decision not to investigate his death, his murder. It wasn't just his death, it was a murder.
Well, Mr. Alvin Sight had that stick-to-ness. It wouldn't let nothing stop him, and he didn't have a high school education, and he didn't want to go back and get it, but he wanted some people to do his story, so he knew more than he could get out of high school, and he proved that he was very successful in all the things he worked at.
That's right. And I think that's important because, once we set our mind to getting something done, there's nothing that can stop it. This site certainly proved that.
Well, he had when a friend of him got murdered at Liberty Memorial, so he didn't stop. He kept on till different people. People know things, but a lot of times people are afraid to get involved. They say, "I don't want to get involved unless something happens to their family." Then all of a sudden, they become very vocal.
Well, that's exactly right. And I think far too often we're left to that as the closed resolution to an issue only ensures that the bad things that we're trying to avoid are going to happen again.
But that's true. Do we have Mr. Merle on yet?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Before we build you up, we're going to let you tell us the office. I remember when Willie Walton was the first one, and then Pearl Fay, and now you. How long have you been? Tell the people what you do, the people who might not know and should know.
Good afternoon, brothers. My name is Ralph. I am the executive director of the Board of Police Commissioner's Office of Community Complaints. Bringing oversight into for the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department. I was charged with reviewing the investigations of allegations of misconduct against members of the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department. We reviewed matters dealing with bias-based policing, harassment, discourtesy, improper conduct, improper member procedure. We're just not involved with officer-involved shootings. We're not involved in that process. But everything else is very game for our office.
Okay, when they had that demonstration about a month ago down in front of City Hall, and I think what happened, a young lady they said was abused that was pregnant, and they had a big gang of people out there, a protester. Is that type of thing you get into?
Yes. It would be something that we will review. However, with that situation, no complaint was ever filed. We're not, with our agency, we don't initiate an investigation. It has to be initiated by the affected party. So, well aware of that situation. Know some of the individuals on the citizen side, but however, no complaint was ever filed regarding that situation.
What should the citizen, the people there, what should have they done in order to contact your office? Because a lot of people don't know what to do, so it's just out there.
Well, one of the good things that has come out of these protests and things of that nature is that we are trying to make it as easy as possible to file a complaint. So the first thing that they can do, they can always go to our website. It's www.kccommunitycomplaints. It's all one word, kccommunitycomplaints.org, and they can fill out a complaint there. That way they don't have to have any contact with the police department. They don't have to worry about trying to catch us in our office. Anytime day or night, they can file a complaint in our office. And also, they can always reach out to us. My direct line, my number is area code 816-889-6641. They can always reach out to me personally. We can talk through the situation, and I can personally guide them through the process and make sure that their complaint is heard.
Well, our host, guest host, Rod Chapel, how would you, or the NAACP, how would you interact with the Office of Citizen Complaints?
Well, that's a great question. I believe it would be President Rodney Williams there in Kansas City would be the primary contact for complaints brought by the NAACP or his designee. So if there's an individual here in our listening audience who's got a concern about the police department, is worried or not willing to, or doesn't know how to file a complaint, even though we just got the website and the telephone number, you can always call 844-NAACP-HELP, 844-NAACP-HELP, and we'd be happy to do everything we've been advocating for the citizens here for decades, of course, and have brought many issues of concern up, and of course we'll continue to do that.
You know, except for Mr. Reverend Williams, the now KCMO president of NAACP, the people would say that NAACP did not get involved after somebody else got involved, and they didn't initiate the lead. But I found it on the Reverend Rodney Williams that even against the VA, they had complaints, and they're making change. They're getting results, in other words.
That's right. That's exactly right. Well, and there's been a number of issues that have come up through the Kansas City NAACP, including, black folks who have the police called on them while they're trying to eat, like happened here in Sonic, and Independence, or people who experienced the same thing down at the Plaza. Now, are these police issues at their heart? Not necessarily, but the minute that an officer responds, you bet it is. And it's up to us as citizens and those folks who are peace officers to do the best they can to try to relieve some of these situations. And I understand that that's difficult. That's got to be difficult, but it's got to have some kind of accountability. I would ask, how many officers have lost the ability to be police officers based on complaints that have come through your office? That I would not know. By state statute, we're not involved with the disciplinary function of the process. All we do is render decisions as to whether or not we believe that there's been a violation of policy and procedure. Once it leaves our office, that totally is under the guise or the span of control of the chief of police to handle disciplinary action and things of that nature. So once we make our decision, we're pretty much out of it. Sure. Are your decisions open to the public, or are those something closed within the department?
The decisions are open to the public. However, at this time, the investigative files are closed to the public because they've been deemed to be personnel records. So therefore, the investigations themselves are not open to the public. However, we do publish a narrative related to every complaint that comes to our office on our website. So you're able to see what the complaint was, and also as it goes through the process, we'll also post what the final disposition is as well.
Do you find it difficult to build trust in the community through these investigations when the investigations themselves are not released?
Very much so. Very much so. Absolutely. The way that we're structured, the governance structure of in Kansas City as it relates to the police department itself lends to distrust. There's always been this narrative of a lack of accountability and transparency, being that we are employees of the Board of Police Commissioners, question as to independence and things of that nature. So yeah, absolutely. So that's why we have to make a concerted effort to get out and to interface with the public, to try to provide as much assurance as possible. I just want to backtrack on something. You talked about the involvement of the NAACP. Let me just say that first of all, Reverend Williams, we had met before, but I met him about a year ago at a presentation at the Bruce Watkins Heritage Center, and we had a full plan to get together and to work together to try to remedy some of these situations, and then COVID hit. So we were kind of derailed in that aspect, but I can also say that Bill Whitcomb, who works closely with that chapter and that office, I talk to him regularly. Anytime that there's a concern, Mr. Whitcomb reaches out to me personally. He has my personal cell phone number, and we're able to talk about those things. So I can attest to the great work that the NAACP does and the fact that it may not be on the front page of the local newspapers, but those individuals are working very hard, whether it's through just advocacy, whether it's through community education, whether it's working with they are doing a tremendous job here in Kansas City and trying to deal with some of these community and police issues.
I haven't heard the name of Bill Wickham, very good friend of mine, but he's with community relations with the Justice Department. So he's still real active. I know his sister was with the Welfare Rights Mothers. They had a pretty organization that really worked on the behalf of not only welfare rights, but the city as a whole.
Right, yeah. Mr. Wicker, I thought that he had retired. It makes me know getting all of these phone calls from him.
I thought he had some too.
Yeah. I mean, he's no longer with the department, but now he works closely with the NAACP, and he makes sure that if there is a community concern as it relates to the police department, that he gets in contact with you directly. So yeah, they have a tremendous team over there. Definitely.
Oh yeah. He's been a fighter for decades, literally, and well respected. Well, and that's good. That's good. What do you have any? Can you give us an idea about the number of complaints that your office handles or receives in a year?
It fluctuates. There's an ebb and flow. We, of course, I think due to COVID, the past 12 months we've been down, of course, but we conduct anywhere between 200 and 300 investigations per year. We probably receive close to, I want to say 400 to 500 complaints, but not all of those complaints are always going to be concerned with members of the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department. One of the things about our office is that, even though we only have a jurisdiction with KCTV, we will still try to assist members of the public if they have a complaint about any area of law enforcement, whether it be Jackson County, Raytown, Grandview. So I would say on average we get about 400 to 500 complaints total, and then anywhere between 200 and 300 of those are investigated per year.
Okay. And how many? What's your staff look like? How many folks do you have working there on this?
My staff, we are small and mighty. Currently, at capacity, we have about 7 individuals. But right now, we are after the retirement of former director Mr. Earl Payne, I have myself, the executive director, I have an office manager, and I have 3 analysts total. So we will probably be looking to bring some people on once we get the budget numbers and get the okay to go ahead, because I'm also looking at a retirement coming up in July. So they'll probably be looking to hire upwards of 2 to 3 more people in the next 12 months or so.
Okay. Well, be sure and send us those job announcements as soon as they're available. We'd like to help you fill those positions.
Indeed, definitely.
Okay, in case you just tune in, you listen to a special program. We're talking about what some of the Republicans and they say law and order. We got the 2 individuals that work very strenuous in resolving the different things, and we are very fortunate to have an attorney on these. I don't know how many hats. We call him Rod, but I don't know how many hats. He's in Jeff City and Kansas City. He has 2 different numbers, and he's a person here. And you want to talk about politics as it relates to that, you got the gentleman that can handle. I don't know how much an office of citizen can play, because people used to think that you guys was, I know it started by the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, that if anybody got in trouble, y'all was kind of lenient on that before you joined the force, of course, sir. But that was what the citizens thought, what I heard. And we should be joined by the very known Alvin Brooks in not too long. So, but you can tell us we on YouTube, we on Facebook, we on the people with the certain type of cell phone, and also it's Ferguson USA at talkradio.com, and we want you to increase our listenership, because the main thing, the 2 gentlemen on there, and we'll be joined by a 3rd one, is interested in getting results, not people putting you in chapter 13 or whatever, file 13, but people to get results. Isn't that right, gentlemen?
Absolutely.
Now that I said my little spiel, we all carry the show.
The big difference in some of the work that we do, and of course as a trial lawyer, I get to try to find justice in the courtroom. As an advocate, when the courtroom won't get it, you take it to the street. But with the office that we have with us today, it is literally funded by our tax money. Us inquiring about accountability and ensuring that our city is operating in a way that it's supposed to, which is really tough. What's the biggest challenge facing your office right now?
Biggest challenge, I would say, is some of the legal and legislative hurdles that we periodically gather. I would love to be able to give more details, more information about some of the investigations that we do, especially when it comes up in community conversations. Quite frankly, because these are considered personnel records, we're limited in what we can actually talk about. I think that, like I said earlier, it contributes to that whole notion of distrust, because it begins to feel that we're trying to hide something, when actually it could be further from the case. I think there's just a lot of misinformation about what this office does and what our actual authority and powers are. We happen to work in an auditor model oversight, meaning that we do a whole lot more than just reviewing the investigations. We also make policy recommendations in terms of training and things of that nature. So the whole plurality of what this office does often is lost into the discussion because people are so focused just on the aspect of reviewing the investigation of the complaint and things of that nature. So it understand. Also, it doesn't come out necessarily that even though an officer may not have been found to have violated policy procedure, there is some type of remediation that happens in every investigation, whether it's advisory, whether it's training, things of that nature. Something happens with all of them. So it's not like, as Brother Richardson said, it doesn't go to file 13. There is some type of administrative action that goes on just by the very virtue of complaint being filed.
Okay. Well, and that's important for people to know. And how long has your office been around?
We are actually the oldest continuously operating civilian oversight agency in the country. It was first founded in 1969. So we are coming up on 52 years. So we are the only. The first one was actually New York, but they disbanded for a time, which pushed Kansas City to the front, and I think we're now followed by Detroit. So we have been around for quite some time, going all the way back to my good Kappa brother Willie Walton. Yeah, he was the former director with the office, and so it's been around for quite some time.
Yeah. In terms of your mission and the goals, do you think the objectives of the office changing or expanding, or just continuing on perfection?
No, I think we're going to have to change. Right, we're going to have to change. I think we're going to have to change the scope of services that it offers. I think there's a greater need for community education. I think there's a greater need for us to become involved at the time of inception when you talk about development of policy and procedure. I think that even the types of investigations that we're able to be involved in will expand over time. I think that any time that you can put more levels of accountability and transparency into any of these systems, the better. Right now we're actually going through that process of saying how can we broaden the scope of services that we're providing and giving the community at large greater insight into not only what we do, but the result of the work that we're doing.
No, and I think that's important. And you mentioned getting together with Reverend Williams, president of the Kansas City NAACP. If I can encourage you in any way to follow up on those types of relationships, and we talk about some of our other without that trust, and I understand that you have a problem with transparency based on the bureaucracy that you operate in, it can be hard to be seen as an asset as opposed to just another barrier. Would you agree with that?
Oh, of course. And that's the position that we've taken, I think, for a number of years. It's a lot of sleepless nights when you're dealing with a lot of these issues and these problems. But the thing is, I tell people all the time, it's like I encourage people to complain about everything, because that's the only way that we're going to have the opportunity to take a look at it. Whether you think something's going to happen or not, still let somebody know that something happened, because that's the only way that something can be initiated if notification is made. And then once that notification is made, hold the oversight agencies accountable to do their jobs, to do their work. Hold me accountable to do the things that I'm supposed to do, to make sure that your voice was heard, and that it was properly reviewed, and that you were given some type of proper feedback on your complaint.
Why don't you repeat about what you do if somebody has a complaint and your procedure, what type of complaints and what they should do in order for it to reach your office?
Okay, so if you have come into contact with any member of the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, whether they are a sworn member of law enforcement or they are even a civilian, the first thing you can do is, I always encourage people, the first thing you do at the earliest opportunity is to write it down, exactly what happened, because your memory's fresh, you remember some details, write the details down about that incident. The second thing that you will do is you can go online at www.kccommunity.org. You can file your complaint there. If not, you can respond to any Kansas City, Missouri Police Department division station and just request a complaint form. They will give it to you. You can fill it out there and you can turn it in there. They will give you a copy and they will notify my office immediately that a complaint has been filed. You can also go to, if you're north of the river, you can respond to Northland Neighborhoods Incorporated. I don't know if the ad hoc offices are resuming normal business hours again because they changed due to COVID, but you can also file a complaint at the ad hoc against crime. And of course, you can respond down to our office. We're located at 635 Woodland Avenue in Suite 2102. And so once you file a complaint, once it's been received by my office and processed, we give you a call to make sure that we have the details of the complaint clear before we pass it on. And we also discuss with you the options that you have before you in terms of resolving the complaint. We have basically 2 tracks. First one being investigation. That's where the complaint is forwarded to the Internal Affairs Unit, where they will set up a time to interview you to further discuss with you about the complaint to get the details. Once they get the details of the complaint from you, they pull all of the records, whether it's videotapes, audio tapes. They interview any witnesses that you may have. They also finally will interview the subject member that you're complaining about, and then they forward all of that information. Once it's been approved by the commander in that unit, they forward it to my office, where it's randomly assigned to an analyst. The analyst will then take a look at the file to make sure that it's complete. If there's any information that the analyst feels that they need in order to make a decision on that file, they have the latitude to send it back to make sure that information is included in the complaint file. Completed complaint files then are analyzed, reviewed, given the disposition. The final set of eyes that looks at it will probably be myself. I will look at the file, I'll review it myself to make sure that it's complete, to make sure that the disposition makes sense, and then it is then forwarded to the Office of the Chief of Police for their review, and also to the Board of Police Commissioners. At the conclusion of all of that, we notify the complainant as to whether or not what the final outcome of the complaint was. The second track, of course, is mediation or conciliation, where sometimes citizens come in and they really don't want to go through the investigative process, and they would rather just have the matter handled or have somebody listen to them, explain exactly what happened. These are for I don't want to categorize them as less serious complaints, but these are the situations where maybe there was a misunderstanding, lack of communication, things of that nature. And we can set up opportunities for that citizen to talk with either a member of the command staff or with a member that they're complaining about themselves, and see what we can do to get the matter resolved.
Okay, excellent. And tell me again, or not again, but for the first time. So we know that there is a huge problem with driving while black. We saw vehicle profile, racial profile stop data report issued by the Attorney General this year in June. We're getting ready to come out for another year, and I suspect that even during the pandemic, the numbers are still going to look crazy. And crazy thing, right? And we understand this today that there are lots of folks who are pulled over, and we as black people are pulled over more than 100% of the time than anybody else. As far as our case and representation, that is, for those kinds of issues. So, and so my question is, what do we do about complaints along those lines? Can your office deal with that?
Yes. Let me say, Brother Travel, for the life of me, my biggest frustration is with that report every year. I've been with this office. I'm in my 20th year of working with Office of Community Complaints. And from the very first time I was in the office and I reviewed the racial profiling report that comes from Jefferson City, and the lack of action, or I should say the growth in action that comes out of that report, I wonder, maybe guys, why do we even issue this report? Because it doesn't seem like anything happened. But yes, we do look at issues of bias-based policing. Those are, I'll be honest with you, those are some of the hardest complaints to investigate, because we have to look at not only the stop itself, but we have to look at all of the intervening circumstances, because it's almost like you're trying to make a judgment on the individual's heart or their intent, right? So it's very difficult. However, it is also, a number of those complaints. At the very least, we can make a training recommendation like, look, this is an issue, and it needs to be addressed in some meaningful way, and we need to make sure that we have documentation of how it is being addressed, because that report and the lack of attention that it has gotten has been it's been problematic for me for a number of years. And I've often wondered it wasn't until first it happened that people said, now we're doing these and some smaller jurisdictions and things like that. I'm like, this has been going on for as long as I've been in Kansas City. The whole time. And it's to the point where it's now comedy. Everybody says, well, you know, if you drive to Warrensburg, you're going to Jeff City. Slow down when you get to Lake Tacoma, you know, because you're going to get pulled over. I mean, that's not acceptable. That if you are a person of color, that you just naturally understand that you can't go to certain areas of the state or the city, or even here locally, you know, they say, well, you're on 63rd Street, you cross over the Blue Ridge, watch out. Right. That's not acceptable. That is not acceptable. I mean, even allusion to sundown laws, when I first moved here, they talk about going north of the river. That's not acceptable. Why are we allowing these conversations to go unanswered and no attention to pay to them? But yeah, so it's something that our office we definitely look at. I understand there's a lot of difficulty with the journal, but this report has been out. The data has been out there for so many years that surely something can be done to address this issue.
Let me interject at this minute. The hottest thing going is what happened down in Atlanta about they say, some people say it's not a hate crime, where the 8 people got killed at the massage party and 6 of them was Korean. Hopefully, Mr. Brooks, do we need to call him again? But what are your thoughts on that, and what should be done? And this happened, and a lot of time it doesn't come out or swept under the table or whatever until something happened. We have to interview. The same thing happened down in South Carolina where the guy, he's still in jail, killed the 9 black people in the church. It's like they're trying to start a civil war. Does that compare with what just recently happened, the hottest thing? And, you know, CNN and MSNBC and the local news, they get right on top of it, and then it kind of die out. What's your, either one of you, what should happen at, what is being done? How can the citizenry get involved in things like that?
Well, I just say this right quickly. I grew up in Georgia. My family's from South Carolina, so I'm well aware of the attitudes of my home state and the region in general. And I'll just say this, that I was disgusted and outraged by the immediate excuses that were attempted to be made on the suspect in this case. You know, it's like automatically it went from what it looks to be on its face to trying to find all of these reasons and justifications for why this individual may have done something, when other people in the community aren't afforded that latitude in those types of discussions. So I would definitely say, and the other thing that needs to happen is that the level of advocacy the pressure needs to stay applied. You know, it's not something where we can get sidetracked and move on to the next thing. 8 people lost their lives needlessly. You know, regardless of the justification there needs to be some type of consequence for this individual, and the pressure needs to be applied on the individual, particularly those in that municipality, to make sure that they get it done. We saw the same attempt at justification in the Ahmaud Arbery case, you know, when they tried to justify why people taking these heinous actions and everything. This should not even be a part of the conversation. We definitely need to make sure that we are unified, that we are strategic in our approach, and that we make sure that justice happens in this situation. Right?
Trying to judge in right quick here, and that in Atlanta was the last state in the union, okay, to have a crime, crime law put on the, crime law put on the books, and that was just a couple of years ago. And I think one of the things that there, the good old boy network was, I think the thing that made most people mad is when the police officer told everybody this guy just had a bad day, and he goes to forget about it. And I think that kind of inflamed the situation even more so.
Yeah. Let me just add on to that, Irish. What we're seeing is complete abdication of responsibility, right?
Yeah.
Cops, they stop. They're supposed to maintain the peace. Sometimes they fill out a report. Now, in that report, it's not on the police officer to decide, hey, this is a hate crime. Hey, this is just a kid having a bad day.
burn down two churches, or let me say this, they vandalized two churches in Callaway County. They're the oldest black churches in Missouri. And law enforcement wants to sit up there and say, hey, this is just something that happened. Kids aren't bad kids. This is not a hate crime. Well, how did they find themselves defacing a black church? Just like this crime, where they killed 8 people who happened to be, I guess 6 of them were Asian, who were working there, and they got customers as well. Then all of a sudden they're trying to create some justification and create the narrative. What if there was one officer that's supposed to talk about stuff, and that they talk about what they found at the scene as opposed to how they feel about what it is that they found? They have been characterizing minority participation in society in a bad way for hundreds of years, not just decades. I mean, since before Missouri was a state and before there were actually public officers, when they were just citizens running around apprehending people. What if we did that? And what if we asked these people that are actually supposed to ensure that when a crime is committed, that they do their job, that the prosecutor, the most important, the most powerful person in the state, actually, and the state in a jurisdiction, do what it is that they're supposed to do. So when you have a hate crime, charge it like a hate crime. And I always wonder, we can't cross the street as people of color, and all of a sudden you got a guy who walks in 3 different establishments with a gun, kills people, okay? And they manage to apprehend him. But then they keep shooting us in the back of the head. Talking about they were running. I thought they had a gun. They knew he had a gun. There is a double standard for justice, and I'll tell you, as long as there is one, we're going to keep seeing situations just like this, not only in Missouri, but throughout the rest of the state. Myrtle, that kind of raises my next question. How many cases have you sent over to the prosecutors? And I say you, your office. I know it's not you, but you have an office that does that.
Yeah, we interesting. Look, we are silos. We don't dedicate to prosecutor's office. That is a function of the police department through their agreements, their MOUs to have matters reviewed independently. Matters involving civil rights and use of force. That is something that the police department would do.
Okay. So you wait on the police department to turn themselves into the prosecutor?
You said that, I did.
Okay. No, but there's a memorandum of understanding in place whereby those matters are reviewed by outside entities, namely I think the FBI. Anything that involves Section 1983 civil rights violations, things of that nature. These cases are reviewed by the prosecutor's office, and they recently hired a retired sergeant from the Kansas City Police Department. He also reviews those matters, and I think he does some complaint work as well. I see. Okay. So I hear the FBI can be brought in. I hear that they'll be referred over to the prosecutor's office. You've got a couple mechanisms to help with that. Do you ever bring in the highway patrol to try to assist with investigations? Do you have some of them that get high?
I've seen New Orleans. The highway patrol is generally brought in instances of officer-involved shooting. At least that's what I've seen. They're not so much involved with. Okay, so let me just clarify. Our office, we don't deal with anything that could potentially be a criminal matter, right? Because we are not a criminal agency. Our stuff is policy-based. We're more administrative in what we do. So anything that might rise to the level of a actual felony or even a very serious misdemeanor gets referred to either an outside agency for review or the prosecutor's office.
Okay, so like unlawful use of force? I mean, that kind of thing?
Yeah, we might be initially looking at the use of force, but if it is deemed that there is a potential violation of the law, then of course, that's referred to the prosecutor's office.
Well, let me ask you this. Everybody said they got this different legislation and seem like and they have the grand jury, but seeing how they find some excuse to get that people, let them off the hook, or this person didn't do this person didn't do that, and black folks have been getting killed lately. I've seen more stuff and appreciate and applaud the world coming on George Floyd. But what's going to happen on that? The same thing they got in Atlanta. Everybody's talking about this is nothing new on either part, the Asian nor the other people of color. But getting results and getting some conviction, where a lot of people get off and they put them on administrative leave with pay. What's going to become of that? What can we do? What can the average Joe Blow do something to get involved? Of course, we say register and vote. But what do you guys have to add? And that includes you two, what do y'all have to add to get some positive results?
But here's one thing I noticed is that the chief of police is either appointed in most jurisdictions, absent Kansas City and St. Louis, because of historical racial perspective on how laws were going to be enforced and who they were going to be enforced upon. Generally, the chief of police is accountable to the mayor and the city council or the board of aldermen. In Kansas City, that is not the case. You still have fat cat politicians down there in Jefferson City deciding how we as people of color are going to be policed here in the town. And so I think that would be the one thing that we can try to change. We need local control of our police department. Then at least it can be messed up here locally. And I hate to cast aspersions, but I said it because, as you know, we called for the resignation of the chief of police, concerned about his leadership. Long-standing issues such as driving while black, those are local issues handled in-house, right? That is an officer. You can see what they're doing. If you don't like it, you can change it. It's a lack of willpower, not a lack of oversight for that issue. And so until we actually take control of our police department and demand that they use our tax money in a way that treats us like human beings, I think we're going to keep seeing these kinds of results. What do you think, Tyler?
Well, here in St. Louis, unfortunately, we are in a worst-case scenario in that we do have control of the police department away from the state, and Madison got actually more significant because now we have the mayor who public service director appoints the chief of police as well as the fire department. And here in St. Louis, we have a case, as you know, right, going on right now with our police department. We have an enforced police officer that was undercover that was, beaten up real badly in a protest we had a couple of years ago, and so now we have crime. We number one crime in killings of young people and murders for the last couple of years. So here in St. Louis, our problem has been that the police department is understaffed, and we are just killing and going like crazy. So the police department is kind of, we don't know who to turn to, for lack of a better description, because we get a new mayor coming in the next couple of weeks here, and so we all hoping for a change to see what takes place there. Because I will say one thing for sure here, okay, the last police, the mayor, okay, it all came from the same group of people, so to speak. And so we're hoping for change in, a more progressive looking at policing than we have in the past. It's been a good old boys network too long here in St. Louis.
Well, what can the people do? You know what is needed. What is procedure to get the citizenry involved who might not know what to do or want to do?
We're here in St. Louis, okay, they're voting for change because right now the two new candidates running for mayor in the next month will be changing the way the whole police department operates. That must be known for sure. So change there would be the first place to start for the voters ask for a change. To get a change.
We open for some other procedure, information. That's what the show is all about. Guess who's coming to Kansas City? We should be saying, guess who's leaving Kansas City if they don't want to do right?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. So let me compliment you guys there on the gentleman that's over there handling the complaints and stuff there for being around for so long. Here in St. Louis, we've been trying to have a citizen review board of some sort put together for years and years and years and years, And also, we talk about in St. Louis County, where we also have a police department that's very been accused of robbery, and also there's been a racist group of people. We had complaints from the chief on down as far as discrimination, and where the police chief fired or been a dispatcher because you were on the radio. So we got a lot of issues going on here, because of the police department.
Yeah, and Meryl, tell us what's the number one complaint you hear about, and what policies have you suggested for fixing those?
I'm honestly, the number one complaint that we hear about is usually something that is anything along the lines of an officer improper procedure. Whether it's report writing, whether it's lack of follow-up, things of that nature. A lot of, there's a number that is enforced, but actually it's not. For our office, most of the complaints that we get with improper procedure or officer conduct, and a lot of times those involve some type of training recommendation. I actually do one-on-one personal training with officers to talk to them about the issues around the investigation and try whatever we can do in the immediate to address and deal with those matters. So as far as policy recommendation, it really depends on the nature of the complaint. I think the last policy recommendation that we made had to deal with some of the report writing and things of that nature. It's almost like we were piggybacking on some other issues that came out of the regional training academy. So that's what we're dealing with now. Of course, we're involved in any of the main policy discussions that you might see in the media, whether it's dealing with the use of for lack of a better term, the chokehold and things of that nature. Of course, we're involved in those discussions as well. And of course, we're adamantly against any type of use of those types of on the citizenry. So, yeah, we involve ourselves in that. I am actually a post-certified instructor with the Regional Training Academy. So I instruct and recruit classes in the areas of conflict resolution and things of that nature, and also de-escalation. So just trying to address those issues, I think, from the initial training standpoint is the key, because once they have into breaking period and things of that nature, a lot of times they get influenced by other individuals who may not employ the best tactics, and to make sure that from a training standpoint that we are using the best practices available when these recruits come to the academy.
So if you ask a question about the George Floyd justice bill, that will bring about a lot of changes in how the laws are going to books for chokeholds. A whole lot of things that take place in the academy dictate what people do in the industry. Would you be wrong?
Yeah, and that's always, years ago we were talking about the academy is fine, but what happens when they get linked up with a field training officer who kind of derail the entirety of their training. So we have to make sure that you have the best possible training on the books, and you have to make sure that disciplinary action is taken when those training edicts are violated, because that's the only way that you're going to eradicate some of this bad behavior that permeates some of our area departments.
Training, you were saying that because the police officer that's in Minneapolis right now was the trained officer, right? Floyd, and also the people that were around him, they did some research. They found out the officer had been trained up under him, pretty much all used chokehold.
Right. And I'll say this, it's been my experience, over 20 years, like I said, you have some excellent people working on the department, but the bad officers are the bad officers, just like bad people, and they know how not to get caught, right? Yeah. And so part of the challenge is making sure that you root out that kind of stuff in any department. Those individuals, they know where the line is, and they know how to get right up close to it, but not cross it. And so, particularly when you're looking at policy issues, because most people black or white, because there's a lot of latitude that's left in terms of officer discretion. So we have to make sure that officer discretion is utilized reasonably. We have to make sure that they are situationally based, meaning that that proper discretion is used for this situation. We can't just have this blanket policy that, well, this is the type of case. So there are a lot of things that we need to look at each of these incidents individually and the right corrective action is necessary when we find that policy and procedures been violated. And let me also add, you actually have an oversight agency with the, I believe, the City of St. Louis Police Department. They're very new, and they're in their infancy. I believe they're less than 5 or 6 years old. They may be 6 years old, and they were formed right after Michael Brown. Right. Now, I know a number of them, and they've had some change and turnover in terms of their leadership. But they're also, their hands are tied in a lot of ways because of bureaucracy and disagreements between, the city, the police department, the police union, and things of that nature. So we're all a member of the same professional agency, the National Association of City and Oversight of Law Enforcement. We actually brought some of our detectives and analysts over to St. Louis a couple of years ago with this thing to meet with them and try to talk to them about best practices. So hopefully they will, they will be able to have more influence over time. But in any oversight agency just getting started, the growing pains they're hard. They are hard. You can only look at the history of our office and see the vaccination.
Well, here one of the problems that we have here is that the one that's on the board is the problem is something that all the American people in the county get involved with the department and also with the mayor's office and people like that. It creates too much bureaucracy. Right. And for them to actually focus on what they're supposed to be doing. Right, yeah. And that's we have our call, try to check in on each other. That's some of the issues that they bring in terms of the difficulties that they're dealing with. Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, we didn't reach that time again by the end of the show, and it always happens every weekend. We can appreciate the different people, guest hosts, and people we have on there, but with each and every one of you, including the Black Chamber of Missouri, tell the people how you can be reached, whether you want to be reached, and then I'll just close out saying this dynamic show we got planned for next week.
Well, I always tell people we can get in contact with you and do that way, MC Richardson, he has my number to talk all the time.
And you can, of course, our website is www.kccommunitycomplaints.org. That's one word, kccommunitycomplaints.org. But you can reach me at any time. My direct line is 816-889-6641. I will answer the phone. And you can call me at any time and trust me, whether it's good or bad. I am a public servant. I am here to work for the citizens of Kansas City. So please, by all means, reach out to us and let us know if there's something that we need to look into, because our duty is to provide oversight of the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department. Hey, thank you, Marilyn. I got a different example of Walker and travelers throughout the state. Also, present the first violated the concern of the way it's treated. On 844 NAA help 844 NAA help. Marilyn, on with you. And let me say, there was recently a situation, it's all over social media, I think it's right before that one was getting ready to go viral. Dancing advocate was unhoused, was in many people's views abused. So I suspect you'll be getting a couple of complaints on that, and we'll report it following up. I received a phone call about that at about, I want to say 8:30 this morning. So, first thing Monday morning, I will be looking into it.
Okay, my name is MC Richardson. I'm the chairman and CEO of the United Minority Media Association, the parent organization of Guess Who's Coming to Kansas City. And we're recruiting, we're looking for members, both people elementary, middle school, college, and people working on their PhDs. But we have and my number is 816-822-8866. We'll use that number while we're still getting my computer ready. But our show is Dynamite, all we're talking about. And the title is Presume Insane. and we have Dr. Annette Shelton, who will be our special guest along with Edna E. Perry, and talking about the two icons. She's in real estate, and these have been talking about people working together. This is referral for Ask Dr. Nelson Network, and be sure to turn on and tune in. Like Ira closes out, like how they can, if they want to hear, read, or see this show, what should they go to? Is it gone? Is our time up? Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Going to Kansas City, here I come. Going to Kansas City, here I come. They got some crazy little women. One day I'm gonna get me one. I'll be standing on the corner 12th Street, Vine.